Michael Jackson and his brothers after Motown, as you know, didn't give them one more chance. Their financial and creative independence depended on owning their intellectual property. 1975 was a pivotal year for the Jackson 5. They had to pivot to become the Jacksons. But here's what you are missing. You are missing the key details to how the Jackson 5 left Motown Records and became an epic success with Epic CBS. You not only have to enjoy yourself, but learn exactly what Michael Jackson and his brothers did to build and maintain their empire. It's time to see how. The rise. The $20 million exit strategy. Between 1975 to 1978, the Jacksons era was born out of a sophisticated corporate separation. By 1975, the group was the crown jewel of Motown, but they were trapped in a fiduciary structure that favored the label over the labor. To understand why they left, you must look at the unit economics. At Motown, the group's royalty rate was a stagnant 2.8 cents per single sold. Despite generating over $200 million in gross revenue for the label since 1969, the brothers remained in a recoupable debt cycle where they were charged for their own recording costs and travel, leaving their personal equity thin. The business secret of their exit was a high-stakes market valuation. In June 1975, Joseph Jackson engaged in clandestine negotiations with CBS/Epic Records. He realized that the group's human capital, their talent, and global fame were portable, while their brand name, the Jackson 5, was owned by Motown. To gain their independence, the brothers executed a strategic pivot. They signed a contract with Epic Records that radically altered their revenue architecture. The new deal offered, point 1, a 20% royalty rate, nearly 10 times their previous net earning power per unit. 2, a $35,000 advance per album, liquid capital that Motown had historically withheld. 3, creative autonomy, the eventual right to produce their own material, the key to owning publishing equity. However, Motown launched a $20 million breach of contract lawsuit in response. This was an attempt at industrial sabotage to keep the group from competing in the open market. The Jacksons didn't just walk away. They fought a legal war for their financial sovereignty. In the settlement, they made a calculated asset sacrifice. They surrendered the Jackson 5 trademark and their sister LaToya's contract to Motown in exchange for their freedom. By 1976, they relaunched as the Jacksons. The first 2 years at Epic were a market testing phase. Their 1976 self-titled debut and 1977's Goin' Places were moderate successes, but they still operated under external producers Gamble and Huff. The brothers were partners in name, but they didn't yet own the production pipeline. The untold story of the family's rise also began with the Jacksons' variety show on CBS. Between 1976 and 1977, while the $20 million legal war with Motown threatened to bankrupt them, this show became the strategic engine for how they built the empire. By securing a primetime slot as the first African-American family to host their own variety series, they bypassed the music industry's legal blockades to maintain their global brand. This was the ultimate business secret of their survival. They used television to provide a guaranteed revenue stream and a brand bridge that kept the family relevant while they transitioned from contract labor to the sovereign owners of their own multi-million-dollar destiny. The empire truly began to scale in 1978 with the album Destiny. This was the moment of vertical integration. After 2 years of proving their market stability, they negotiated for executive producer status. By writing and producing Shake Your Body down to the ground, they moved from being employees to intellectual property owners. This shift was the foundation of their multi-million-dollar empire. They were no longer just selling records. They were building a publishing catalog. By the end of 1978, Destiny had gone platinum, and the brothers were capturing the majority of the profit margins that used to go to Motown's board of directors. They had successfully transitioned from being a music product to a business entity, setting the stage for the most lucrative era in entertainment history. And as you know, the process alone was not all smooth sailing. Because getting out of Motown contract wasn't easy, it was a challenge. But what other challenges do you believe they went through to build their empire? The challenges: the $20 million litigation and brand volatility between 1976 to 1984. As you can imagine, The transition in 1976 wasn't just a change of scenery, it was a high-stakes hostile environment. Immediately upon signing with Epic, the group was hit with a $20 million breach of contract lawsuit from Motown. This was a strategic poison pill designed to drain their liquid capital and paralyze their momentum. To survive, the brothers had to surrender the Jackson 5 trademark, an asset forfeiture that forced them to rebuild their global brand from zero. So they had the challenge of now creating hits. Under this new brand name, how would they look and sound? As they were all maturing, and the deal they signed meant so long as they did well, they will be able to enjoy themselves. The success of their first hit on the new label meant more sales revenue, but now it was time to repeat the process. By 1977, the challenge shifted to market skepticism. Their second Epic album, Goin' Places, saw a significant dip in sales compared to their Motown peak. In the music industry, two consecutive underperforming assets often lead to a divestment from the parent label. The Jacksons were facing a bear market for their brand. They had to prove they weren't just a 1960s novelty act, but a viable long-term enterprise. Then came the variety show. The business secret behind the variety show was that it served as a high-stakes survival tactic, but it created an internal identity crisis that was part of the untold story of their struggle. While the show protected their brand during the $20 million legal battle, Michael Jackson famously hated the cheesy variety format, viewing it as a distraction from his evolution as a serious artist. This tension reveals exactly how they built the empire through compromise. They had to endure the creative poison pill of primetime television to fund their independence. They weren't just fighting Motown in the courts. They were fighting a war of creative friction within the family to ensure that their multi-million-dollar asset didn't become a relic of the past before they even had a chance to produce Destiny. In 1978, they neutralized this threat by securing executive producer status for Destiny. This was a move toward vertical integration, but it placed the entire fiduciary risk on the brothers. If they failed to produce a hit, the empire would have faced bankruptcy. While Destiny was a success, 1979 brought a new, internal challenge: asset decoupling. Michael's solo album Off the Wall grossed millions, creating a massive discrepancy between his individual market value and the group's equity. By 1981, the Triumph Tour grossed a massive $5.5 million, but the operational overhead was immense. The brothers were now acting as their own underwriters, bearing the costs of a 100-person staff and complex logistics. However, the ultimate challenge arrived in 1983. Following the unprecedented success of Thriller, Michael Jackson became a global monopoly. The Jacksons brand was now being catapulted by its own lead singer's success. The era culminated in 1984 with the Victory Tour. While the tour was a financial juggernaut, grossing approximately $75 million, it was plagued by PR liabilities and internal management conflicts. The high ticket prices, an unheard of $30 at the time, created a consumer backlash. The challenge was no longer about making it. It was about managing a multi-million-dollar conglomerate that was pulling itself apart at the seams. They had built an empire, but by 1984, the cost of governance had become unsustainable. You can feel it. You can feel that these challenges they overcame, which transformed them, and that led to many turning points. The turning points. The ownership revolution between 1976 to 1984. The Jacksons era was not just a musical comeback, it was a year-by-year masterclass in strategic capitalization. By looking at the timeline, you can see exactly how they turned a legal crisis into a global monopoly. And best of all, they are family. The revolution began in 1976 when the group executed a high-risk exit strategy from Motown. The immediate turning point was surviving, releasing new music on a new label. It was a moderate success that proved the group could survive after leaving Motown. In 1977, they faced market skepticism as sales for Goin' Places dipped, forcing them to realize that survival required more than just singing. It required executive control. This was despite Enjoy Yourself being a much-needed success. However, Goin' Places, in 1977 as their lowest-selling album of this era, it moved about 675,000 units worldwide, generating approximately $5 million in revenue. This period was a financial low point for the group before they gained creative control. The variety show was another crucial turning point. The business secret of the variety show was that it acted as the ultimate strategic inflection point for the family. By 1977, the show became the inside story of their transition, as it gave them the leverage to survive the $20 million debt while proving they could draw a massive audience without the Motown machine. This was how they built the empire through media diversification. They used the primetime stage to bridge the gap between their Jackson 5 past and their sovereign future. By the time the show ended, they had successfully used television to pivot from being label-owned products to becoming a self-funded, multi-million-dollar family brand ready to take total creative control. They included not just the Jackson brothers, but their sisters, Rebby, LaToya, and Janet, who were also included. The ultimate business secret arrived in 1978 with the album Destiny. The brothers secured executive producer status, moving them from contract labor to intellectual property owners. Destiny, 1978, a major turning point. This album sold over 4 million copies globally and grossed roughly $32 million. This was the first project the brothers produced themselves, yielding the multi-million selling hit, Shake Your Body, down to the ground. This shift allowed them to capture 100% of the publishing equity on hits like Shake Your Body. By 1979, the empire faced a valuation shift. As Michael Jackson's Off the Wall grossed millions, it sold 20 million copies worldwide. While there isn't a single official gross figure for its initial release, the album likely generated between 27 million in US sales alone by the end of 1979. Michael Jackson personally earned an estimated $37 million from the project's global success, bolstered by his exceptionally high royalty rate for the time, creating a dual-track wealth model where the family brand and the solo brand worked in tandem. In 1980, the brothers achieved vertical integration with the Triumph album, handling all writing and production. Triumph was riding the wave of Michael's Off the Wall success. This album sold roughly 1.1 million copies in its initial run, grossing about $10 million. It solidified their status as top-tier arena performers during the early 1980s. This led to the 1981 Triumph Tour, which grossed $5.5 million. This was the operational turning point. They proved they could act as their own underwriters, managing the massive overhead of a global touring corporation. By 1982, the release of Thriller created a market monopoly. Thriller, the undisputed titan of music history. This album has moved a staggering 130 million units worldwide, grossing an estimated $134 million in direct revenue during its initial era. While its record-breaking 37 weeks at #1 solidified Michael Jackson as a global phenomenon, Thriller became the best-selling album of all time. It was the momentum from this era that fueled the 1984 Victory Tour. But the group's true catalyst came on March 25, 1983, at Motown 25. This performance was a strategic inflection point that tripled the group's brand valuation overnight, proving that the collective Jackson name was still the ultimate blue-chip asset. The era culminated in 1984 with a landmark era for the Jacksons. While the album itself was a hit, selling 7 million copies worldwide and making $8.7 million, it was the accompanying Victory Tour that dominated the era's finances, grossing a record-breaking $75 million, serving as the final liquidation of the group's collective era. By December 1984, they had transformed a $20 million legal debt into a multi-generational media empire. They didn't just make music, they built a financial blueprint for sovereignty that remains the gold standard today. Knowing all of these turning points, it became more than just a triumph and victory, because it is very clear Michael Jackson and the Jacksons as a whole had to move strategically. But what strategic steps do you think they took en route to building and maintaining their empire? The strategies, the blueprint of a global empire. You can see that their journey to get to this point is unheard of. Groups before them, especially from how they began, put them in a position where they had to move very strategically. So, how did the Jacksons move from a $20 million legal debt in 1976 to a $75 million liquidation in 1984? It most certainly was not luck. It was a series of ruthless strategic moves that redefined and solidified the Jacksons as music royalty. They followed a precise, year-by-year strategic playbook that turned them from a family in debt into a global financial powerhouse. Between 1976 to 1977, the debt absorption and brand pivot. The first strategy was risk mitigation. To escape Motown, they had to absorb $5 million revenue of the album, Going Places, to secure long-term freedom. The business secret behind the variety show was that it served as a high-stakes survival tactic that triggered a deep internal identity crisis. While the show protected the family brand during the $20 million legal battle with Motown, it became the untold story of Michael Jackson's personal frustration. He famously loathed the cheesy variety format, viewing the scripted comedy as a distraction from his evolution as a serious artist. This tension reveals exactly how they built the empire through strategic compromise. They were forced to swallow the poison pill of primetime television to fund their independence, proving that building a multi-million-dollar empire often requires enduring creative friction to secure long-term financial sovereignty. Between 1978 to 1979, the intellectual property shift. With the album Destiny, they executed the most important strategy in music history: vertical integration. By securing executive producer status, they moved from work for hire to IP owners. This allowed them to capture the lion's share of the $32 million grossed by Destiny. Simultaneously, they launched the dual-track model with Off the Wall, allowing Michael Jackson to build a blue-chip solo asset that funneled massive brand equity back into the family holding company. 1980 to 1981, operational underwriting. With Triumph, the strategy shifted to self-containment. By writing, producing, and arranging everything themselves, they eliminated middleman leakage, fees that usually go to outside producers. In 1981, they scaled this by acting as their own underwriters for the Triumph Tour. By managing the logistics and staff themselves, they turned a $5.5 million gross into a high-margin profit center, proving they could run a multi-million-dollar corporation without external oversight. Between 1982 to 1983, market monopoly and valuation spikes. The strategy was asset maximization. They used the global explosion of Thriller, which earned $134 million initial revenue, to create a market monopoly. Then, on March 25, 1983, they executed the ultimate product demonstration at Motown 25. By reuniting the brothers on stage during Michael Jackson's ultimate superstar levels, it inflated the group's market value, turning a legacy act back into the most in-demand brand on the planet. 1984, the global liquidation, the exit. The final strategy was corporate synergy. They leveraged their 1983 valuation spike to sign a $5 million PepsiCo deal, effectively getting a third-party corporation to pay for their tour's marketing. This allowed the family to maximize the $75 million gross of the Victory Tour. By December 1984, they completed the cycle. They had successfully liquidated the Jacksons group brand at its absolute peak, leaving each brother with the capital to fund their own sovereign futures. Especially Michael Jackson, who didn't even have his own tour for Thriller, but it was enough to want to make the Victory Tour be exactly that with his brothers. It makes you wonder, what are the lessons you can learn and apply to grow and maintain your own family empire? So what lessons have you taken note of so far that you will apply? The laws of the Jackson Empire. The evolution from 1976 to 1984 serves as a masterclass in power dynamics and asset management. The strategic lessons are hidden within their financial timeline. Between 1976 to 1977, the law of strategic sacrifice, identity versus equity. To answer why Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 left Motown, you have to look at the $20 million debt they absorbed. They chose to lose their famous name to gain their future. The insight: they prioritized ownership over sentiment. Most people cling to a legacy brand they don't own. The Jacksons sacrificed the Jackson 5 name to build a new entity where they held the equity. Lesson: an identity you don't own is a liability, not an asset. Between 1978 to 1979, the principle of asset decoupling, the dual-track model. The untold story of their wealth began when they moved from contract labor to IP owners with Destiny, grossing $32 million. The insight: they didn't suppress Michael Jackson's $27 million from off-the-wall success. They used it to subsidize the family's brand valuation. This created a rising tide effect. Lesson: in a family empire, one star asset should be used to lift the floor for the entire collective. Between 1980 to 1981, the psychology of vertical integration, eliminating leakage. How they built the empire was through self-containment. By 1981, they were their own underwriters, turning a $5.5 million tour gross into a high-margin profit by eliminating middleman leakage. The insight: they realized that the person who controls the production chain keeps the profit. By writing, producing, and managing themselves, they stopped being a product and became the factory. Lesson: wealth is found in controlling the means of production. Between 1982 to 1984, the exit strategy, the art of liquidation. The inside story of the $75 million victory tour was that it was a clinical liquidation. They leveraged the $134 million momentum of Thriller and the $5 million Pepsi deal to exit at the absolute peak of their market value. The insight: ambition requires an exit strategy. They didn't just play music, they liquidated a decade of brand building into a multi-generational fortune. Lesson: know exactly when your asset has reached its maximum valuation and have the discipline to cash out. You have to admit, this is a lot to comprehend. So let's do a quick recap. As you know, beyond the $75 million tours and the $134 million record sales, there is a human story of immense pressure, irony, and the weight of a family legacy. Between 1976 to 1977, the weight of the poison pill. The untold story of the Motown move wasn't just about a $20 million lawsuit. It was about the fear of losing everything. Imagine the silence in the room when they realized they could no longer be the Jackson 5. It was a moment of profound identity crisis. They weren't just fighting a label. They were fighting to keep the family together under the crushing weight of massive debt. Between 1978 to 1981, the triumph of the self-made. The business secret of their wealth is the sheer grit it took to produce destiny and triumph themselves. There is an irony here. The industry expected them to fail without expert guidance. Instead, they found their voice. The $32 million gross wasn't just profit. It was the sound of a family proving they didn't need a master. That $5.5 million triumph tour was the first time they felt the true power of sovereignty. Between 1982 to 1983, the bittersweet peak. As Michael Jackson reached the $134 million for Thriller into the stratosphere, the inside story shifted. The strategic inflection point at Motown 25 was a moment of peak irony. While the world saw a superstar, the brothers on stage were navigating the reality that their star asset was outgrowing the family umbrella. The emotional tension of how they built the empire was balanced on a knife's edge between collective victory and individual destiny. In 1984, the final victory, the $75 million victory tour, was the ultimate climax. It was a goodbye disguised as a homecoming. The irony is that the moment they achieved the $5 million PepsiCo deal, they didn't know the era was ending. As Joe Jackson emphasized, the family should stick together, especially with how they had to overcome poverty and then debt because of the Motown contract. But Michael Jackson had other ideas. The final victory wasn't just the money. It was the fact that a family from Gary, Indiana, survived a $20 million legal war to stand together on the world's biggest stage one last time. They didn't just build an empire, they survived it. So this is nothing but amazing and inspiring, because it makes you wonder, what is the principle of all of this? The principle: the sovereign empire. As you can tell by now, the center of this 8-year journey lies one singular, unbreakable principle: strategic sovereignty. To master the business secrets of this era, you must see how they applied this year by year to build their multi-million-dollar empire. Between 1976 to 1977, the principle of equity over security. Why Michael Jackson and the Jacksons left Motown was to solve a power imbalance. By absorbing a $20 million legal debt, they proved that equity is the only true security. The principle: if you do not own the masters, you are a tenant, not an owner. In 1978, the principle of creative agency. With Destiny, they moved from work for hire to creators. They proved that the untold story of their wealth was rooted in the courage to produce their own sound. In 1979, the principle of the dual-track model, they used Michael Jackson's $27 million from off-the-wall success to subsidize the group's brand. The principle, one-star asset, must lift the floor for the entire collective empire. In 1980, the principle of self-containment. With Triumph, they eliminated the middleman leakage. By writing and arranging every note, they kept the profit. This is how they built their empire by becoming the factory. In 1981, the principle of operational underwriting. By acting as their own promoters for the $5.5 million Triumph Tour, they took the risk and the reward. The principle, control the logistics to control the margin. In 1982, the principle of asset maximization. They leveraged the $134 million initial momentum of Thriller to create a market monopoly. The principle, use your peak momentum to dictate your own terms. In 1983, the principle of product demonstration. At Motown 25, they used a single performance to inflate the family's market value. The principle, performance is the ultimate marketing tool for a legacy brand. What Michael Jackson did was bridge the gap between legacy acts of celebrating the past to perform a solo of new music. And it worked in the favor of the Jacksons. And in 1984, the principle of strategic liquidation. They combined a $5 million PepsiCo deal with the $75 million Victory Tour to exit at their peak. The principle, know exactly when your asset has reached its maximum valuation and cash out. The ultimate lesson is this: your value is determined by your independence. The Jacksons didn't just build an empire, they built a fortress of sovereignty. That's why they are music royalty. With that said, do you have the discipline to absorb the debt to secure the victory of your own ownership? So,